I have Minister Simon Andrew Fraser, little longer name, but we will say in short, Mr. Sean Fraser, our Minister of Immigration and Citizenship with me. This is our very first interview, first talk with him since he has become Minister of Immigration. So there are many, many important questions, issues related to Ministry of Immigration, which we are going to ask him, talk to him. And I wish we can continue this conversation in coming weeks also later on. Minister, first of all, welcome to Parvasi Media Group.
It's a pleasure to be with you. And let me start by saying Sat Sri Akal to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. So I have been talking to most of the Minister of Immigration for a long, long time. And I always tell them that you guys have the most important job to do. The most important ministry, I would say, one of the most important ministries in our country, because most of the things depend upon the new immigrants, new Canadians coming here and doing what a wonderful contribution to economy, to the progress of our country.
Look, I don't disagree with you. And, you know, just on that point, when I think of immigration, this is not something we do as Canadians. It is who we are as Canadians. Every Canadian who is not Indigenous has the story of a migrant as their origin point in Canada. My ancestors came here 250 years ago from Scotland. There are different groups that have come every year since then. Many before, many will come after. And it's a beautiful thing about Canada that we expect you to keep who you were before you arrived to build the Canada of the future. And it's important because immigration, we're in the business of building Canada. So I completely agree with you. It's hard to imagine a more rewarding or more important portfolio to have because when you're in the business of nation building, it doesn't get more important than that.
Okay. Minister, we'll talk about your recent announcement regarding Super Visa. It's a very successful program so far, and people are getting benefit of that also. So you made a couple of important changes in that. Please tell us about that.
So the starting point for me is that a major part of immigration to Canada is to reunite families. We have a number of different streams that people come through to be with their loved ones. One of the things that is really important about the Super Visa program is it allows for people who may not qualify for permanent residency under, for example, the parents and grandparents stream, because there is such enormous demand under that stream. Very long basis, so they can be with their loved ones while they're waiting for an opportunity to potentially apply for permanent residency. The changes that we made to the Super Visa program are going to extend the period of time that a person can stay in Canada for up to 5 years at a time and potentially extend it for an additional 2 years beyond that. This is an enormous improvement compared to the previous program. This change is going to take place a little more than a week from now on July 4th of this year. And we're also going to expand the ability of people to use international insurance providers so they may have easier access to medical insurance that will cover the cost of care should they become ill once they arrive in Canada. These are important changes. It's going to make the program more accessible, but it's also going to allow people to be with their loved ones for a longer period of time, which is something I think we can all agree is a very good thing.
Okay, so do they have to apply for that? Once they
you will have to apply for the Super Visa, and the program is going to open very soon. But we're also putting resources into our system to process applications more quickly to make sure that people aren't waiting too long a period of time once the program opens to actually be reunited with their loved ones.
Okay, but so we have information that around 1.8 million people are waiting. Their applications are in process. It's taking a lot of time. On the other hand side, we have a shortage of workers, and we have almost 500,000 workers which we need right now. So I understand that we have gone through this very tough time of COVID. So why it is taking so much time for the processing?
So look, let me say that I'm starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. But I also want to say that if we're going to solve this problem, we have to understand where it came from. And there are real challenges. There has never in Canada's history been more pressure on our immigration system than there is right now. The problems that we're dealing with stem largely from the COVID-19 pandemic because our offices for a period of time were shut down around the world, including in places where we don't have the ability for people to work from home because they don't have reliable internet connections or to protect the privacy of people's information once it's in the immigration system. It also caused us, when the border was closed to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our community, to pivot our strategy to start resettling people who were here temporarily through the TR to PR program, which meant that people who were already in Canada were getting processed, but a lot of applications were coming in from all over the world at the same time. This puts us in a position now where we essentially have a few years of applications in our inventory all at once. That's the tough news. The good news is that we've made a lot of investments into the system that are starting to show very serious results. We've hired more than 500 people to help process cases faster. We've invested $85 million to speed up temporary permits to come to Canada. And we've got an additional $385 million coming from the recent federal budget. The result of these investments, plus some advances in our technology that we're using within the department, has seen us hit 200,000 permanent residents a couple of weeks ago. This is a month and a half faster than any year in the history of Canada. We're also now processing work permits at about 250% of the pace of last year. Because we're putting these resources into the system, we're seeing the processing speed is going much faster. By the end of this year, we expect to see most of our lines of business back to the service standard we could offer before the pandemic. My goal is to improve it beyond that once we get to that stage, but I do start to see finally we're making a lot of progress.
Okay, you are talking about TR to PR. So the last program was quite successful, but we have heard that more than 50% of those people are still waiting for their PR. But we are also hearing the news that the new batch of TR to PR is also being considered. Can you tell us more about that?
So you will have seen in the immigration levels plan that we're continuing to settle people who have applied under the TR to PR stream. It does take a little bit of time because we're dealing with tens of thousands of applications. At the same time, we're processing through all of our other lines of business. And as the TR to PR pool gets smaller, the federal economic streams will continue to get bigger. So we continue to grow our immigration ambition overall for people who are coming here to fill gaps in the labor force. One of the things that's really exciting, and I should give a huge congratulations to my friend and colleague Randeep Sarai, who's advanced a private members motion in the House of Commons that actually puts me on a clock to establish a framework to provide a pathway to permanent residency for temporary foreign workers and international students and people who are here on a temporary basis. By the fall, I'm going to have to present a framework to Parliament about the proposed pathway for people who fall into these temporary categories who would like to transition to permanent residency. It's not going to be identical to TR to PR, which was designed to respond to an emergency when we needed to deal with a shifting global landscape and closed borders. But we're going to take the lessons we've learned from TR to PR and speak with stakeholders who deal with international students and temporary foreign workers to understand how we can design the best policy to attract those people who we want to convert to permanent residents who happen to be here on a temporary basis right now.
Okay. Any number in your mind for that?
I don't want to prejudge the outcome of the conversations that I'm going to have over the summer. We'll be able to provide clarity, I expect, as part of the immigration levels plan that will be presented in the fall in the House of Commons.
Okay. We are hearing from some students, international students, that in Quebec, most of the private colleges, they are not issuing them, they're not eligible for the work permit. And these international students are little, they have fear in their mind that this may be happening in other provinces also. Can you clear this also?
So the recent change that was made at the request of the provincial government in Quebec actually aligns Quebec with more or less the same rules that have been in place in all other provinces before that policy change was made. What we end up seeing is certain private career colleges are not necessarily offering or have not necessarily been able to offer the postgraduate work permit the same way that public institutions have been able to offer. Now, I don't want to paint all institutions with a bad brush. There are some private career colleges that provide amazing services. There are others who have real challenges with their international student program. But using the postgraduate work permit as a recruitment tool without making sure that you're providing a legitimate learning opportunity for somebody who's coming on a temporary basis has the potential to create a backdoor into the immigration system where it was never intended to exist. We've simply made a change to align the policy in Quebec with the other provinces in Canada. It was something that the provincial government was asking for, and it's the rule that we've more or less had in place across the rest of the country for quite some time.
Okay. And are we advertising in those countries from where these students are coming so that they are well aware of this?
That's right. Look, there's a number of different things that we've done. I think that the first and foremost, we have a regulated professional college now to manage the immigration consulting profession in Canada. That gives me a lot of faith that the profession in Canada will not be taking advantage of students, and if they do, the profession has the ability now to punish bad actors and to promote good actors. The challenge that we have when we're dealing with people who promote programs all over the world is we don't have the same authority to operate in another country that we do within Canada, quite obviously. So we try to combat it with providing good information. We tell people that you need to get your information from the government of Canada if you're going to accept it to be true. When someone submits an application, we share all of the details with the program with them so they understand what to expect. And then we try, once they arrive, to plug them into different kinds of support so they continue to receive good information. And the nature of the supports they receive can vary on the basis of the nature of the pathway that they've come to Canada, particularly if they come as a visitor or as a permanent resident. But good information is the antidote to protect people against bad actors who would seek to take advantage of them so they can make personal profit from countries all over the world.
Okay. Minister, I am talking to most of the previous former Minister of Immigration regarding this international students issue. It's a welcome step by the government. Millions of these students are coming here, settling down, doing good contribution. But on the other hand side, there are many challenges which the local communities are facing, particularly affordable housing related to this problem. So how you are going to keep it balanced? I mean, the federal, provincial, and municipal governments can work together to deal with all these issues.
So look, I view these to be separate but related issues, and I would not want to attribute our housing challenges in Canada to international students specifically. This is a result of communities that are growing very fast from a whole host of spaces. But I would say that international students in particular make extraordinary social and economic contributions. And I'm grateful that we are a destination of choice for the world's best and brightest. And I want to continue to promote that. Now, to your second question about housing and frankly, other infrastructure, we can't bring in more people than communities have the capacity to absorb. I'm very lucky because the person who sits immediately beside me in the House of Commons is Ahmed Hussein, the former immigration minister and the current housing minister. Guess what we talk about all day? Yeah. He says to me, or I say to him, Ahmed, are you going to be able to build enough housing units for the people that we want to bring in? And he says, that depends. Can you bring enough workers in here to build the housing that we need to grow our communities? Yeah. One of the things that I think we can do to improve upon our system is to better target the people we bring in to meet the economic needs of our communities. I'm very excited about a change that's being made. It's through the Budget Implementation Act that just was adopted by the House of Commons a couple of weeks ago. It's now going through the Senate, and it will give me the flexibility, and every immigration minister after me, to select populations that meet the sector by sector needs and with a geographic focus. So if we know that in Ontario there is a housing shortage, we could target people who have the skills in construction to come to Canada that will be able to help address those issues. In my home province, the challenge may relate to healthcare in Nova Scotia, and we'll be able to draw down people through express entry that will be working in healthcare in Nova Scotia. We'll be able to use a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer to solve these kinds of challenges, but at the same time, we'll be investing record amounts of money through the National Housing Strategy to build more housing stock, to make sure that our communities will be able to remain welcoming to those who are seeking to come and make a life in Canada.
Okay, Mr. When I announced in the morning today on my radio show that I will be talking to you, I've got a couple of questions from our listeners from the community. First question is regarding to Sikhs and Hindu refugees in Afghanistan. Canada has done a wonderful job bringing in refugees, people from war-torn country, Ukraine. It's a remarkable job, no question about that. But on the other hand side, they're demanding for the long time. Manmeet Singh Bhullar Foundation, they are doing an excellent job in this field. So there are around 500 to 700 people, Hindu and Sikh families, who have been sponsored privately. They are in India waiting for that. And maybe around 100 to 200 people in Afghanistan. So can government of Canada, federal government can consider for these people also?
Look, first, let me say that we recognize the extraordinary challenge and persecution by the Taliban of religious minorities, and the recent attack in Kabul has really been a disappointing development to see this kind of continued violence against religious minority communities. When it comes to some of the groups that you've identified, I'm so happy to share that we work very closely with the Manmeet Singh Bhullar Foundation. The efforts of the organization to bring them to Canada is extraordinary. I've had the opportunity to meet some Afghan Sikhs who've landed in Canada already. We are working very closely to bring hundreds more. We're continuing to advance that work, but we've had some very, very positive policy developments that are going to accelerate the arrival of some of these groups, despite the fact that there is a really unique legal challenge we had to overcome about the status of a person as a refugee, because as you know very well, a number of the individuals have found a solution where they were safe in India, despite and because of that fact, they don't technically qualify as refugees. But we want to continue to work with the Manmeet Singh Bhullar Foundation to have a shift in our approach to nevertheless get them here to Canada. That work is advancing very well, and I look forward to greeting hundreds more who will be arriving in Canada at some point in the future as part of our resettlement initiative that we've made a contribution to in respect of Afghanistan.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we have around 200,000 people from Ukraine who are here and getting work permit on priority basis. When they can expect PR? Is there any special program for them for the PR?
So there are not that many Ukrainians who've landed in Canada. There's about 43,000 have arrived since the beginning of the year. There's quite a few more that have been approved to come, but we're hearing from many, many people that although they're approved, they've taken it out as an insurance policy to see if they need to go, because they don't want to leave Europe. They don't want to go too far from Ukraine because they would like to go home. We are attaching work permits, as you've mentioned, to the application process so people can come and support themselves. But on your question about permanent residency, we're working right now to establish a family sponsorship path, kind of like with Afghanistan. We've established a pathway for extended family members of previously resettled interpreters. But one of the other things that I should point out is that the Ukrainians who come here on a temporary basis are eligible to apply for permanent residency under the usual streams. Because they have a 3-year work permit, they should have enough time, if they wish to stay, to apply through those streams. One of the other things that's on my mind is I want to be careful not to have the legacy of this program be that we rob Ukraine of its talent for the next generation. They're going to need some bright people to rebuild when the war is over. President Zelensky very recently asked the students who've come to Canada, go and get educated, but bring your expertise back to Ukraine because we're going to need you. To the extent people would like to stay, we are not going to prevent that, but we're going to allow them to apply for permanent residency either through a new family sponsorship pathway or through the ordinary way, given that they have 3 years to apply while they're here on a work permit.
Okay, my last question before you go. Most of the important categories, we have family class, we have spousal sponsorship category, and I got calls from my listeners and they said that, ask Minister, why it is taking so much time. On the other hand side, they're saying that when they get their medical done, and then why it's taking so much time even after that. And sometime when the medical expired, they have to reappear for medical again. It's an ongoing process for them. So how we can reduce times for all these categories?
There's 3 things we can do. Put more resources into the system, adopt policies that make the process faster, and embrace technology that will allow us to process cases more quickly. On resources, we have a lot of money and people we have put into the system. I discussed it earlier in this interview with more than 500 new staff and the investments in the fall and now in the recent federal budget. Those investments alone are going to allow us to get back to our service standard by the end of this year, with the exception of citizenship, which will spill into next year. Okay. When I look at the policies that we're adopting, the most important one is the immigration levels plan. If we set a limit on our levels that's smaller than the pool of people trying to come, it will take more time for them to arrive. I want to continue to increase the levels plan so we can welcome more people each year, and then also adjust policies to see if we can allow people to get here more quickly. The final piece is turning our system into a digital system. We need to get away from a paper-based system. We can't have blockbuster technology in the age of Netflix. If we want to have a modern immigration system, we have to use digital technology. The advantages show themselves when a person can get an update on their case on their phone in their pocket, rather than calling their MP, who calls me, who has to get the department to call someone on the other side of the world to get an update on a piece of paper. If we can get that information to a person on their phone, that is wonderful. And you can do that now for family reunification cases, but it's also going to allow us to boost our processing capacity, because when we have an office in Delhi that may be dealing with a lot of volumes, if our office in Paris is slow, Paris can help start processing cases that come from Delhi. These are the kinds of efficiencies we're going to gain as we embrace a digital technology adoption. And I'm so excited about the potential, because it has the capacity not just to get us back to where we were before, but to leave us with a much stronger system on the back end of this thing.
Okay, Minister, as I said in the beginning, Ministry of Immigration and Citizenship is always a challenging ministry, but you're doing a wonderful job. And there are many, many questions still left, but I'm sure we will talk very soon again. It was long due interview, by the way, and we wish that you can be in Toronto sometime and in our studio so that we can talk in length on all those issues. Anything you want to add at then?
Look, let me just reiterate my view that immigration is a good thing for Canada. We need people to fill jobs in the labor force. We need to reunite families, and it makes our communities more vibrant and dynamic places to live. So long as I am the Minister of Immigration for Canada, you're going to continue to see record levels of ambition in terms of what our immigration system could do. I'm very proud of the work that we're advancing today, and I'm very proud to be from a country that is so welcoming. One of the biggest challenges I have as the Minister of Immigration that is unique to the Minister from Canada is that my biggest problem is that I can't get people here quickly enough. Some of my counterparts around the world have trouble convincing their communities that they do need immigration. We need immigration. We will continue to embrace it. And I'm so pleased to join you today. I look forward to getting together in person next time I'm in Toronto.
Okay, your former colleague, they had mentioned target of 450,000 immigrants every year. So very ambitious plan, very ambitious approach. Are you sure you will be able to meet with that?
Look, I'm more than confident we can get there. And if our communities have the capacity to go further than that, then we will go further than that. For now, we try to match the ambition of our immigration plan with the absorptive capacity of communities. If communities tell us we can bring more people, I think that's a good thing, and we're going to continue to do it. I don't have a particular number in mind that has to be the right number. I have needs of communities that I see that need to be met. And right now, the needs of our communities are having more people to grow our communities, to grow our economy, and to continue to have a vibrant Canada that we all get to call home.
We need a aggressive Minister of Immigration like you, which you are already. So we are also quite confident that this number will grow in the coming years again, as you said, with the demands of the community. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
A real pleasure. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.